Good evening, everyone. It is so good to be with you all on a Wednesday evening, a day I normally don't come on live with Ask the Doctors, but we are changing up, flipping the script today. Oh, I'm happy. I'm smiling from ear to ear because of the guests that I have with us today. Today is Wednesday, November the 25th, the day before Thanksgiving 2020. Imagine we have made it all the way to Thanksgiving of 2020. It has been such a year, such a difficult year, a year of so many unexpected turns, twists, flips, deaths. Typically, I come on and I will quote the latest numbers. I don't even need to quote the latest numbers today. We know that where we are is in dire need, and across the country, we're seeing the death rates continue to increase. But today, the reason why we're on today is to come on to talk about how to be grateful, and not how to be grateful, but just be grateful. We need a show like this today, honestly. We need a show like this today just to talk about the goodness of God, the goodness of people. And I am so privileged that I have four amazing presenters and guests who's going to be on with me. And I want you to go out, share, like, call people, text them, let them know that they need to hear this. If you know somebody who is discouraged right now, come on, let them know. Tune in to this episode. If you know somebody who is cooking right now, they're in the kitchen, slaving over that hot stove, making those biscuits. My God, making that turkey nice and crisp and juicy. Even my guests who are still hungry and still eating in the background, that's cool. I man, you let them know. Come on. I see a couple people are joining us. So I am just, again, privileged. I'm going to bring on, again, our first guest. But before I do, remember, Ask the Doctors is sponsored by my employer, Hope Health Systems, which is a mental health organization that's based out here in Baltimore. And I have some wonderful news that I will share at the end that actually ties right into this episode about being grateful. I'm also calling it the cause before the applause. The cause before the applause. Because these folks that I'm talking about and who are with me today, they're not looking for applause. They're just concerned about the cause. And those are the type of people that I like to be around. And they don't have to be old people. There could be people who are young, who have a centeredness about themselves. And so let me bring on Andrea Brown, who works with me in the Black Mental Health Alliance. Thank you, Andrea, for being with me.
Thank you for having me. Super excited about being live. Super excited about your topic, and especially in this moment. And so it just, when you talked about, as you started talking about being grateful, how to be grateful, but just based on what 2020 has looked like for us as Black people, as people. So yeah, lots to be grateful for. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. And so we work together, Black Mental Health Alliance. You want to tell a little bit about what the Black Mental Health Alliance does?
Absolutely. Black Mental Health Alliance has been around almost 40 years, and we have been really the trusted source in how to connect people of color, Black people, to culturally grounded practitioners, making sure that we host a number of conferences and forums so that folk understand the importance of mental health and well-being. But quite frankly, it is our hope, if we do this right, that we'll be out of business in a few years, because people will have what they need so that they can just take their lives to another level. So that wasn't totally what we do, but that was my PSA about what we do.
I got you. You trying to be out of business in a couple of years?
Absolutely, because if we're out of business in the right way, for the right reason, then we will have done our job. There'll be something else we can do. We can go on tour and then hook up and do a book. But I think if we message to Black people about the importance of their mental health and well-being, and if we change the narrative about how we move from trauma to triumph. I think we start this new thing. So
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. Let's bring our next guest and presenter, Mr. Kellen Brooks. Hey, sir, how are you?
Doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, wonderful. So glad you could join us, man. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, what you do,
Yeah,
where you're at.
for sure. Yeah, well, I'm a pastor in the city of Inkster, Michigan, Pentecostal Temple Church of God in Christ. This is my 5th year pastoring, and so still kind of fresh in pastoring in the pandemic. And so I'm learning as I go. Thankful for the experiences and the people that I've been able to meet. And man, glad to be on this show, having this much needed conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to shout out to Inkster because Inkster just elected one of the youngest city councilmen, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me on that.
Yeah, well, it may be an old article because Jewel Jones, it may be referring to, he was the youngest elected councilman. He's a state representative now. So yeah, he's leveling up, man.
My bad. Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. That man's doing his things. That's great people. Great things coming out of Inkster.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. All right, let's move on. C. Ivan Johnson, friend of mine, who has just taken media by storm. I'm so privileged that his schedule allows for him to join me today. Come on, tell the people about. I love messing with you. Come on, tell the people about yourself, what you do, where you're at.
Good evening, Dr. Shepherd. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really count it a privilege to have the opportunity to share with some of the most brilliant minds that I know, and this beautiful woman who's joining us as well this evening, who is brilliant as well. So it's nice to meet you. I'm C. Ivan Johnson. I live in Tacoma, Washington. I'm a pastor of Greater Destiny Church of God in Christ. I'm also a commissioner for the Human Rights Commission of the city of Tacoma. And I am excited about this conversation. It's necessary, and I think that it's going to be very efficacious to those that are watching. So looking forward to the dialogue, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Absolutely. You hear that radio voice? I'm telling you, he got it. All right. All right, I messed it here. And our last panelist who has just taken us by storm, thank you, Elder Aaron Macklin. I want him to come on and join us and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing out there in Hayward, California. Come on, speak to us, my friend.
Well, Dr. Shepherd, it is a joy to be on with everyone. I'm excited about this topic. It is so necessary and needed. And we've been living in this pandemic way past the cute phase. And yet here we are still. So, I just serve at Glad Tidings International in Hayward. I serve as the assistant to the pastor, who happens to be Bishop Jerry Macklin, who's my father. And we're just trying to meet as many needs for people as we can, and pray that God exceeds everybody's blessings and provides in the middle of the pandemic. So I'm just glad to be here. Glad for this conversation and all these great giants we get to speak with.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so we got all the pleasantries out the way. So let's dive on in because I want to talk. I want to discuss. I want to hear. Now, here's the thing about this panel, which I love, and I mean, we're literally crossing 3 time zones right now. I'm over here in the Eastern time zone. Andre's in the Eastern time zone with me. We got Kellen. I think you're still Eastern time zone, but I consider Michigan kind of like the Midwest. And then I got the Northwest with Ivan, and then we just got the plain old West with Aaron. So let me, it's awesome where we have got so many people across the different time zones that we have. So now, we got a little bit of background noise here. All right. Sorry about that. All right, let's move forward. So let's talk about the different messages that that you have learned this year.
Sorry, Dr. Shepherd, I'm here, but I'm hearing fuzzy. So I thought it's probably my internet. I've called Xfinity, but I'm here.
Okay, no problem. We got you. We're We're gonna pray for good internet capacity through that. Be grateful. Let me tell you though, before I ask my question, listen to what happened today in Baltimore County. Someone hacked the internet so the children could not go to school today. Just crazy.
Wow.
Actually shut down a whole county school system today because of the internet not being able to work because of hackers. That's crazy. So this is just the type of stuff that we're dealing with. But anyway, let's get on to this. Be grateful, be grateful. So I want to hear about the lessons that you all have learned from across this nation. What lessons have you learned in 2020 that you can share with our audience? Again, this show is going to be uplifting, inspiring, to be able to provide for those people who are really, really struggling. So I want to hear about some of the lessons that you all have learned. I'm going to start with you, Kellen, first. And just, again, just take a few minutes, share with us what things you've seen and learned this year.
Yeah, totally, man. Well, I've been telling my friends and just other ministry comrades I've been conversing with that this has really been a Sabbath year. Most of the things that we would normally be doing, we can't do, whether it's vacations, conferences, conventions, both sacred and secular. And quite honestly, it has been a blessing in disguise. It has enabled us to really take some time with family that maybe ordinarily we would not have had, take some time to just do some introspection and some reflection. It's been a difficult year, but one cannot deny almost this forced sense of rest. And that's one thing I've been grateful for this year is being able to just kind of turn off, being able to say no because it's a pandemic. Sorry, I can't come. I hate it has to be those circumstances, but God takes the foolish things and confounds the wise sometimes, So that's been kind of my thought process for the here's a Sabbath, let's take advantage of it.
Ivan Johnson, what things have you learned, and what things have you, if there's a part B to this question, I want you to talk a little bit about what things have you learned to be grateful for during this time?
So one of the things that this pandemic has taught me, and I feel like this has just been, as Pastor Brooks has stated, just so much. But amid all of that, I have learned contentment. I've learned how to be content, not to be anxious. I've learned how to chill out. As people say, get somewhere and sat down. I've learned how to get somewhere and just sat down and just allow the scripture of the Lord to manifest in my life as it talks about be still and know that I am God and I will be exalted. And so I am thankful, along with that, part B to your question, for contentment. I'm thankful for peace. I'm thankful that I have come to a place to where I have finally just allowed myself to rest in the moment. Because as leaders, as visionaries, you're always thinking ahead. And then when you start thinking, you start worrying, you start stressing. And then you have all these different feelings and you start to question, okay, God, am I cut out for this? And the interesting part about even this pandemic, I've talked to a lot of different pastors. And one of the things that they have shared with me as a sentiment that I agree with is that sometimes even in ministry, the virtual space, sometimes you seem more tired or feel more tired than you did actually going to corporate worship settings because of all of the mental exertion that you are, exerting and putting together, making sure, okay, I got to make sure I say this right. Because if I don't, make sure the praise team sounds decent. Because if not, we're going to be a meme or we're going to be clowned all over the nation. So there's so many different things that you're thinking about. But I've learned, like the Apostle Paul said in Philippians chapter 4, and not trying to be too churchy, but honestly, I read this in a different translation. He said, I've learned how to master life. And he said, the way that I've learned how to master life is simply to be content. Whatever the circumstance, whatever state I'm in, pandemic or non-pandemic, I've learned how to be content.
Wow. Oh man, that's quite an answer. But let me just say, I understand, because not just with the whole church worship piece, I get tired just from looking at the patients. that I'm seeing. Now, I'm not tired of looking at the patient. That didn't come out right, but I'm just tired of looking at that screen.
I'm about to say, you got to fix that, doctor. You got to fix that.
Where the patients are at. This is now, I have to wear reading glasses. Oh my God. I have to wear reading glasses because the eye strain is real. It's just, I'm not going to wear them here because that reflection kills me. But man, it's just, yeah, Aaron. You just wear glasses. But I'm telling you, I hear you because I do feel more worn out. And even in that weariness, I'll be honest, being transparent, it's been difficult for me to find things to be grateful for. And again, I know some people, I can't believe he's saying that, but that's just the truth. And so that's why even with this show, I have a certain sense of excitement about it because I needed to hear this. So Aaron, share with us, man, what lessons you learned and what things have you learned to be grateful for in this year of 2020?
I'll say it like this. These moments count. All of these moments count. Before the pandemic, we talked about 2019 like a dog. We said all these terrible things about 2019 and I ain't going back to 2019 and all these terrible things. And here we are in 2020 and we say, you know what? 2019 wasn't so bad. Right. I'm grateful that we are in this space right now. And my huge takeaway that I've been sharing with our church is that these moments matter and you have to take advantage of these moments. If anything this year has showed us, it is that people have literally been here and gone this afternoon. They're not waiting until tomorrow. They're leaving this place. There's no time to say, well, when I get this, I'm going to do that. Do it today. Take advantage of the moment. Take advantage of the rest. Take advantage of being home with your wife. Take advantage of having your kids at home. These are moments that we will never get back. And we will be held accountable for how we were stewards of this time. And God is literally, he's I can't recall any time in history where God has called a reset button on the world outside of the flood. And here we are, God has leveled the entire playing field and said, all right, now everyone's in the same space together. How will you do something different? Here is your giant wake-up call. We thought 9/11 was bad, and it was. But here we are. 8-9 months into this pandemic, and some of us, and I'm one of them, got bogged down in now I'm tired of doing Zoom. Now I'm tired of getting the praise team together. I'm tired of having to record 7 songs in one day so we can have them for the next 7 weeks, right? And if we're not careful, we'll easily get back into the same routine of getting tired and having no time. But God has pushed us on this reset and has given us time and said, what are you going to do with the time that I've now given you? Wow. And if there's anything that God is going to judge us with, yes, he's going to judge us for our actions, but he's also going to judge us on how we use the time that he allowed us to spend on this earth. So we have to take advantage of these moments, recognize that God knew COVID was coming. This is not a surprise to God. And for us to sit here and fight it like it's not real is probably the greatest downfall in history. And if you're going to sit here and fight it, I pray God slaps you across the face and wakes you up. But God is real. These moments are real. And I pray that we don't, and it's not cliche, but I pray we don't come out of this thing the same way that we went in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, this is powerful. Andrea, come on and round this out.
Yes, me and my internet. So, it's interesting as I was listening, there's this reoccurring theme, but I think as I think about, what I've really learned is to have respect for the pause. right? Because we get on this thing. And so it is my today of work. It is my 199th day at the Black Mental Health Alliance, right? 199th day. I walked in on a Monday or whatever day I came in. The following week, I was working remotely. I didn't even know the people that were on the team. I had met them once, couldn't recognize them or anything. But what I learned from that is, I mean, we've been moving. We had a hit list and we had all these things that we were purposing to accomplish, but I have learned to respect the pause. And I think, Reverend Johnson talked about, wherever he finds himself to be content. And it's almost that same kind of thing, but there is a pause for a reason. And so I think that. And the other big key for me is the opportunity to reset. I got a blank canvas, right? I got a blank canvas almost. And so what will I do with that? And so I don't know when this opportunity is going to come back. I really don't. You talked about, Aaron, you talked about, this moment with our children. I've got a 16-year-old. We've been biking like crazy. We've never done that. And so I get to know him as a young man and not just as a boy. So I'm respecting the pause. I really am. And it took me a minute to get to that place, but I'm respecting the pause. I see the pause differently. And I don't know, quite frankly, people say, I'll be glad when it gets back to normal. I don't know if we want to be glad for that, right? I don't know. And I think we've got to figure out what a new normal looks like, because it can't be what it once was. So
Absolutely. And I'm just going to transition here. So with that, respect the pause, man. I'm hearing some great taglines that I'm going to be utilizing in these comments. But let's shift now. So with respecting the pause, Kellen, I want you to talk about what has your organization, what has your church, those things that you've been involved in, how have you been able to help those people who have been less fortunate? Because again, we're talking about being grateful and making sure that we are respecting the pause, but we're also knowing that the cause is very important during the pause. All right, so I'm trying to work on these things together here. Yeah, man, come on, tell us about what you all have been doing. I'm excited to hear about it. People need to hear about it. And as you're doing it, I would love to hear some stories. And this is really for everybody, how you've been able to help those who have been in need.
Yeah, totally, man. And that's a great question. I think one of the most basic ways we've been doing it is really through providing food and providing PPE for everyone. And so that's been a major thing. It can seem overworked, but man, people stay hungry. People have basic needs. And so that's something that we've been continuing to do. And I was grateful earlier this year. We were at one of the many prayerful protests that were taking place early in the summer on the heels of George Floyd's murder. And while at one of them, our congresswoman was present, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, and she asked the same question. So what's your church doing? And I told her what we were doing, man. And she said, well, I got a check for you. It'll be in the mail tomorrow to help. So it's just been a blessing that people have been reaching out and donating. And we had a councilwoman donate thousands of masks so that people can have, PPE. So just trying to meet some basic needs on a consistent basis has been one thing we've been trying to do. And then on the pastoral front, this pandemic has allowed for us to ramp up communication. And so I've done a lot more letter writing, snail mail to the congregation, just to let them know I'm thinking about them, just,
Cool.
sharing about what's on my heart. I've been doing more emails and just ramping up communication so that people can know that, hey, we're present and we can have that touch. And, it was special this year. I had a member actually to pass a couple of weeks ago who was a family member. But earlier this year, she and I began handwriting notes and cards to each other. And so that was a beautiful thing. And Sunday at the office, I happened to see it laying in my office, a handwritten card that she sent to me. So I feel like in many ways, it's caused us to be a little more analog in our approach. And those are just a few things that we've done.
Gotcha. All right, come on, C. Ivan Johnson up there in Tacoma. What grand things are you doing?
Wow. Well, I share the same sentiments once again with Pastor Brooks with regard to one of the things that we're doing is we certainly are doing a lot of feeding for individuals, low income citizens of Tacoma, as well as seniors. And as Pastor Brooks was talking, when we first were approached to do it, my thought process was, it's probably really oversaturated because it seemed like everybody was giving out some kind of food. But then I started to read statistics, and even in America itself, over 50 million people suffer from food insecurity, and 17 million of that population, if you will, that demographic rather, are kids. And so you can never have enough food drives. You can never have enough food giveaways. Along with that, we also have had the opportunity to give out personal hygiene items as well as household cleaning items to families. And so we've kind of incorporated the two. On the pastoral side, I feel like as the pastor, God has kicked me out of the sanctuary into the parking lot. And the Lord has literally said to me, I want you to pastor outside. Cold, rain, sleet, snow. I want you to pastor outside because the sanctuary has become very comfortable. The pulpit is a very comfortable place. We love the ambiance of church, the music, and all of those things that have been normal to our traditional context. And now that we are in this place of pandemic, and depending on where you live, we're all the way back on phase 1 again. And so we can't even have choirs or praise teams. They want a soloist, and we can't even have a band. And so with that being said, you kind of feel that in some areas, it's like, wow, there's a deficit of that fellowship and that interaction, because church essentially is supposed to be communal. But, I am so thankful for this time where I really have felt the hand of God pushing me out, moving us out of that place of comfortability with doing in-reach, because in many cases, it's like, we'll serve you, but you got to come to church, or we'll serve you, but we got to see you in service. Come to service, and after service, we'll give you the basket. After service, we'll give you this. There's no service happening unless you get online right now. And so the Lord has really propelled me to pastor in the parking lot. And that's where all of this is taking place. The food giveaways, the food drives, and the personal hygiene items and the household cleaning items. And I'm thankful to God. I feel liberated in a sense because there's something that just lifts off you when you're already concerned about everything, but at the same time, when you're being obedient to what God has called and commissioned you to do during this time.
That's great. What's happening in Hayward?
A lot. A lot, man. When COVID first hit, my father was probably one of the first churches in California to completely shut down. Just at the thought of it, we had way too many healthcare workers who were in a high level to tell us that it was safe to be outside. So we shut down very early, and we have not opened since. The phrase that we have been using is the church doors are closed, but the church remains open. So we went out and purchased the largest Zoom line that Zoom sells. And we literally went from having service Sunday morning, 8 and 11, to having service Monday night, Tuesday morning, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday night, and Saturday, and then 8 and 11 on Sunday morning. Making sure that every single day somebody can log on and find some source of encouragement, hope, peace, strength, because we are literally living in a time where we have never been before. We have people who literally were, as I said before, here one day, gone that afternoon. There were cases of severe COVID sickness, and then there were cases of you just had mild symptoms. You had no symptoms. And there are folks who we didn't know had anything who were gone. So we kept the doors of the church closed, but allowed people to connect with us anytime during the week. we started feeding, as well as Pastor Brooks and Pastor Johnson. We started feeding. We began, which we thought was just going to just knock it out of the park, with feeding students because the schools were closed. And it grew from feeding students to feeding the family. And we first were getting boxes from Farmers to Families, and they gave us, I think, 200 boxes on a Saturday. And I was looking at those boxes like, how are we going to get rid of these boxes? And we are now up to 1,700 boxes, 1,800 boxes that we give out in one day on a Saturday.
Wow.
I don't say that as a flex. I say that because the need in Hayward is so great.
Right.
Like, it is so great. We have different organizations who say, hey, do you guys have enough boxes? How many people are you feeding today? How many people are coming by? And we've turned that Saturday into a huge ministry opportunity. That's where our swag came into play. Everybody has swag on. Everybody is lined up in the parking lot. When you first come in the parking lot, it's a big old U line to where you can go through to get your box. But before you get your box, there's prayer for you in Spanish. There's prayer for you in English. There's people who ask you, what are the needs of your house? What else is going on? We also opened up a COVID testing site on both sides of our campus. So our South Campus, where the administrative offices are, is a COVID site. And on Saturday, we're at the South Campus, and at the end of the line, once you get your box of food, you can get a drive-through COVID test as well. Making sure that we're not just ministering to the soul, but we're also ministering to the body, because there are so many different needs in our community.
Yeah.
And you can't minister the same way we did before. Like you said, Andrea, there is no going back. I don't want to go back. Going back would be exhausting. It would be neglecting everything that God is doing in this moment.
Yeah.
God is providing. God is literally raising up people in our church who were, for lack of a better term, pew silent members, who are leading our Zoom sessions, who are praying out loud. And these are folks that I have seen at the church for years, since I was a child. And this one lady got on and started praying, and I was like, where did this come from? But it's the moment that people are taking advantage of the moment, and you're literally, people are being raised up, people are speaking out, and you have to take advantage of that. You have to say, God, listen, I'm not going to be silent in this moment. Even when George Floyd was killed, we refused to be silent. We, along with several other churches, did a memorial for him. We had the mother of Oscar Grant on during that memorial.
Oh, wow.
I went to school with Oscar Grant in elementary school. We ate lunch together.
Wow.
We can't be silent in these times.
Right.
Like, it is not a time for silence. We have to rise up, say something, call out evil, provide for those who are doing good, give strength where strength is needed. This is what the church was here for. The church was not called for a day.
Right.
It was not called for a Sunday morning.
Right.
We are so much bigger than that. And in the reason that I'm grateful for this time is because now people are seeing that church is not just a building, but as Pastor Ivan said, church is outside. We're in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor Kellen is writing. Pastor Kellen, we know you can write, but now your members get to benefit from that writing. So many others could benefit from these things. I mean, God knew we're here, and he's causing us to be raised up in this moment.
Absolutely.
We got to take advantage of it. So that's what's going on in Hayward.
Absolutely. Andre, you ready to chomp at the bit? Come on.
No, no, it's so funny as he talks about, as everybody, but, as Aaron talks about this moment and how we can't be silent. One of the things that we, have been touting, not in the office, but the team has been talking about this quote from Audre Lorde, right? And one of the things she said is our silence won't protect us. And so what does that look like? And, so I've got two things I want to share. And I'm so glad that Clergy is on, because we just recently did a podcast. It hasn't aired. It's a little provocative, but I think we had to do it. And we talked about, the Black church, where art thou? And we talked about that in this moment of civil unrest, this moment of folk in the pulpit, folk in the ministry, like suffering mentally, and we're not addressing that. And and not it's not being addressed. And so we said, Black church, where are you? Where are you? Because none of us, whether it's the Black church or any civil rights organization, we really can't afford to pontificate anymore. That's done, right? Nobody wants to hear that. And so one of the things that the Black Mental Health Alliance did, we released this series, and it was called Black to Basics. And what that really meant was, let's get back to the basics. And how do we help you understand that it is okay to be able to talk to a therapist? Talk to your pastor and talk to a therapist. And quite frankly, your pastor should be sending you to us. And so, and if he or she isn't, then why? And we've got to call the church out in such a gentle, loving way that that people's needs get met, because that's where gratitude comes in. That's, I'm not bashing your pastor, but he sent you here. And so how do we help you? How do we connect you with somebody that's speaking truth to power, somebody that understands you from a trauma lens, from slavery, somebody who understands all of that. And so I think, I can't say enough about what we can do in this moment, right? I can't say enough. And, we want to do a hashtag, this is our moment. Quite frankly, that would be it. But, again, part of what we did was really make sure that people understood it was okay to ask for mental health services. It was okay to figure out, why am I sleeping through this? What's wrong? Well, there is something wrong. It's not because you're lazy. There's something wrong. And so to be able to message that in a way that people felt comfortable, we reduced the stigma. That's been a big part of what we've done this entire time. And I think the last thing I will say that I think is important, we talk about your silence won't protect you, but we also tried to make sure that people are finding their voice, even in the midst of fear, even in the midst of social isolation. And, we could talk about it all day long about this infiltration of racism in our communities. Let's not go there, but let's help you find your voice in a way that is helpful, healthy, and meaningful. And so, that's how we've been messaging. Your silence won't protect you. And then I think, and I'm going to let you, I'll stop here, but I think this other notion about what does self-care look like? And it's not selfishness. And how do we help you with self-care? And some of that is absolutely going to church. Some of that is journaling. There are other things, but getting people to understand, especially Black people and Black women, about self-care. And I'm not talking about the external, your drive through, get your nails done, get your facial. I'm not talking about that. Get your hair cut. I'm talking about, the full restaurant experience. How do you get your cup full again and again and again? So.
Got you. Wow. So let me tell you, I was very strategic in who I brought on this show. And it was not by happenstance, not by accident, because I wanted to make sure, because you asked a very important question, Andrea, is where is the Black church? I purposely chose people who I know who are working in faith-based organizations, people who I knew, people who are young, because they sometimes age of persons gives them a bad rap too. So I was very strategic. I think about things when I put things together. And so I wanted people to see that these are people who are, the guests here are reaching out to make sure that the cause is greater than the applause. Because one of the things that I've learned, and I'm shifting here, is that if you live for the applause, you'll die in the silence. All right. And so these folks right here, we ain't looking for the, so I want to remind people, hey, we're giving you some wonderful examples, as they talk about the various experiences, as we're talking about the various things that we are doing. Hopefully you're going to pick up things that you can do tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever you're going to do over this Thanksgiving weekend, so that you can share the gratitude and share with others who are in need. So what I want to hear now is just some stories of resiliency. I'm sure you have some. People need to hear about how people were down and they bounced back. That's what resiliency is. The capacity to bounce back. That's what resiliency is. So So come on, Kellen. If you have any stories of resiliency, we need to hear these before we start wrapping it up.
Yeah, totally, man. Where can I begin? Well, I guess I'll share more of a personal story. Last year, our church lost so many members, starting with our senior pastor. And it seemed like every month there was somebody passing or somebody to bury. And I personally got to a place where I just unconsciously turned off my emotions about the losses. And it didn't matter how tragic it was. It was probably about three funerals where it was just a tragic death. And man, I just felt like I just turned everything off to where I was numb to what was taking place. I personally knew this is not okay. Like I should at least be shedding a tear here or there.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that one of the members who I'm close to, one of the deacons, we were able to just kind of talk and check in. And he asked me a simple question. He said, "How is Kellen doing?" He said, not the pastor, how's Kellen doing? And just that simple question about how am I doing, it gave me a chance to really sit and think, man, not for anybody else, not for my church, but for myself personally, what's really going on with me. And I took that moment to really just start to allow myself to feel just the full brunt of the weight of the year. And I took that and said, you know what? I'm going to take some proactive steps. I'm going to go talk to somebody. I went and got a therapist and said, I'm going to start seeing a therapist and talking. Early in my pastorate, I had a coach who I would talk to often, but that was more goal-oriented types of conversation. But doing the therapist, it allowed me really to just sit and just talk some things out, talk about church, talk about personal, and just put all that out on the table. And it was interesting, me going and doing that, it erased the stigma for me, just having that hour to sit and talk. I said, man, this is no different than what I do with people all the time. We just sit and talk things out, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So that's been a blessing for me. And it has allowed me to just be able to share with people, hey, do what's necessary for your health, period. I'm not excited to be in physical therapy right now. I had a dislocated shoulder not too long ago.
Wow.
But even with that, it's given me this mindset to get the total man together. And so that's where I'm in. That's how I'm going into 2021 is, hey, all cylinders got to be hitting. All cylinders got to be tight. Do whatever's necessary for your overall health. So.
Gotcha. C. Ivan Johnson.
A testimony, if you will, in terms of my own personal resiliency. I think by the time we got to the 5th month of the pandemic, that I had found myself in a really dark place of discouragement and frustration, because when we first started, every month it was like, we'll be back together in 30 days, or we'll be back together by Easter, we'll be back together by Mother's Day. Right. By Father's Day, I said, you know what? I don't know what. I'm not forecasting it anymore. So I found myself in a really dark place. And I started to notice that even amid our congregation, that individuals were not as enthusiastic about the ministry as they were in the beginning. The live numbers, if you will, sometimes you have to pay attention to that just to see, our people connecting were declining. Transparent, the offering had gone down as well. And so, I'm not trying to be in a position to where I'm like, God, we are not getting ready to die this pandemic, are we? Like, what's going on? It felt like a wilderness experience, if you will. But the time came and I was sitting in my bedroom, and I'll never forget that I heard the voice of God just literally tell me to get up and shake yourself. And I didn't understand quite what the Spirit was speaking to me during that moment. And so whatever I did spiritually, I don't know if I jerked or quickened, whatever we do, in our context, but the moment came, right? One of those, right? But the moment came to where I had that experience with God, and there was a shaking. And it was like literally the Lord recharged my battery in that moment, because I was completely dead. I mean, I was still preaching, still teaching Bible study every Wednesday. We have Monday night prayer call, Friday night prayer call. I was doing all the things that we have set up during the pandemic, but it was almost as if things were coming out, and blessed be the name of the Lord that he was pouring in. But it was like, it was like being that cistern to where you're being poured into, but there's still a leak. And so you're still just completely depleted and empty. And so, during that time with God, it was like I experienced a reset, I experienced refocus, and I experienced recalibration. It was like a personal revival. I felt fresh wind, fresh breath, and I can't even exactly remember the time, because it was a very random time during the day, and it was probably a time where I would be working or being busy, but because I obeyed the voice of God and stopped in that moment to enter into his presence and to get what I needed from him. That was for me, my moment of resiliency, because, as you continue on, everyone wants to be successful. And if you're not careful, you start looking at other ministries and you're starting to compare yourself like, well, what they got going on over there? Like, God, why can't that be us? And right. All of these different components, all these different elements, you're warring with and you're fighting through. And it takes energy to do that. But I'm so very thankful to God that I shook myself, that the Spirit of the living God just blew fresh breath into me. And we're still running on to see what the end's going to be. And I tell that testimony in different settings, even to the parishioners of our ministry, because I want them to understand that, you're not the only one who's tired. You're not the only one who is frustrated and irritated during this season. You're not the only one who wants to go back to church. You're not the only one who, feels, discouragement. You're not the only one who even sometimes sits and just like, God, okay, when is this going to end? But when it's all said and done, this is not about us. It's all about God's glory being revealed through us. And if we quit, if we lose heart, and if we faint during this time of adversity, his glory won't be revealed through us. And so that's my testimony.
It's great. Aaron.
I shared the same story that Pastor Kellen shared when he said he was at a funeral and he felt numb. I remember the last funeral we had at our church. They rolled the young man in who I did not know, but there was no emotion whatsoever. And it was for a member, it was her son, but I had no emotion. And I told one of the AV members who I'm good friends with, I said, this is a problem. I feel nothing. Mm-hmm. And right after that, literally that next week, COVID shut us down. Wow. And while I was weak, I had to start the work of doing Zoom all day, every day. And went literally right from weakness into work and grind. And the people were blessed and the people were enjoying it. We had a revival one day. We ran the AIM convention. We had different speakers on. One day we were on 4 times in one day, but I was weak from the work. And it took me back to a moment I didn't know. There's a young lady at our church. She's married. I've never spoken to her on this level. Didn't know she was a prophetess, but she came to me one Sunday. She said, I asked my husband if I could say this to you, but the Lord revealed and told me that you're going to be surrounded by many men. And this was in January. She said, I don't know what it means, but the Lord told me that you're going to be surrounded by many men. They're going to support you. And, I'm not the type of person to be like, this is great. I'll be a bishop tomorrow. I'm like, I didn't receive any of that, like on any level. I was like, cool. Thank you. Go have a seat. And here we are. I was, weak for this work. We had all this work that we had to do. And the Lord brought that back to my remembrance. And he said, I told you that you'd be supported by many men.
Hmm.
What it caused me to do was to restructure several of our ministries to where people were not just attending, but people were a part of everything that we were doing.
Right.
And it went from being all on my shoulders, from me giving it to all the different members of our church. So everybody had some stake in the game.
Right.
And it had to be that way because when we first got in the pandemic, I heard it. Everybody say, Elder Aaron, you're doing a great job. Aaron, this is great. Aaron, this is great. Aaron, this is great. And it rolled off my shoulders. And I was sitting in bed one night and the Lord literally told me, like he told you, Pastor Ivan, this isn't about you. This has nothing to do with you.
Yep.
This has absolutely nothing to do with you. And I took advantage of that time and said, I need help. I'm weak. I'm weary. I'm worn. I'm tired. I need help. And God allowed me to bring in several different people who I didn't know could do this type of work. And hosting Zoom is exhausting.
It is.
It is exhausting. It caused me to grow our AV ministry, who we had figured out how to work on a skeleton schedule where we had 3 or 4 folks working. Now on a Sunday morning, I can operate unless I have eight or 9 guys there on a Sunday morning just for the show. And it doesn't mean anything about me. It's just all the folks who are there to help push ministry. All the folks who are now have stake in the game to say, this is what I do. This is what I do. This is what I do. And it's caused our church to really look at how we involve people. And one of our plans with Bishop was how can we restructure our ministries to operate during COVID? Because there is no hospitality where they come and set the table. We're not eating. We're not having service. There is no hospitality department. There are no campus greeters to come help you park your cars. So there are no ushers to help you sit down. So how do we now move and make you from something that you were doing in service to how can we refocus and repurpose you and put you in another place and still allow you to be effective? And God has just opened so many doors and put people in place that's just people still love the work. People still enjoy being a part of service. I mean, God's been good, brother. God has just really caused our church to come alive again in some respects. There's people who haven't been involved who are involved now. And on another kick, brother, we have had members who left the church over 10 years ago. And I'll be on the Zoom and I'll see names pop up. And I'm like, Mildred, Sally. Like, I remember when they left. Like, they've been going
All about that. Open review.
Come on, man. Join my online church.
Oh my God. All right. Andrea, come on, tell us.
First of all, I just want to say this, that it is so rich to hear the 3 of you talk about to be so transparent.
It is.
I mean, that's just rich, especially among Black men. And so, so thank you for doing that, because it's one thing to, be in the pulpit. It's one thing to be in this position of leadership and servanthood, and you don't call out your pain, right? That's it's radical to be able to name your trauma. If you can name what's ailing you, that's radical. And so I think, and that's the place that we are. This whole move and shift, and again, you are scholars of the word. I am not. I am a believer, sealed and sanctified, and all that kind of good stuff. But this is such a shift, right? So I love where as you guys are having this conversation about your about a dry place. So that's important. And so I say that because some of what we've seen on the team, and I'll use with most folk on our team are women. And really when this insurgence of this infiltration sort of peeked its ugly head with this racism in these communities. George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, we can all name them, right? Just really began to take its toll on the team. And so, but we were still making sure we were providing workshops, making sure we were talking about radical self-care. And then when Breonna Taylor died, you know, so there were two things that we noticed. Number one, you know, as mothers of Black boys, that, you know, we hadn't talked about that. We were trying to make sure our constituents in the community was being here, but we hadn't talked about our own fear, right? My own fear was my 16-year-old. This Black brilliant boy that I have responsibility for. So some of us and all of us on the team have sons. And so we hadn't talked about it. We just kept moving through. And then when Breonna Taylor, right? A Black woman's rest was stolen. Okay? A Black woman's rest. You don't take I can't sleep now with a 16-year-old. And you going to steal a Black woman's rest? And so again, we kept moving, kept talking about what that meant. How do we not remain silent in this time? How do we help our communities? How do we help them find voice? Blah blah blah. And then we realized we are beat up. We need to have the conversation about how we balance. And for us, it was almost like an epiphany, because we were like, in this moment, how do we still be able to meet the needs of our community, of Black men, Black women, Black children? How do we still talk to them about health and well-being, and yet we are still empty? And so the fact that we were able to name it, right? We were pissed that Breonna was woken out of her rest. We were mad about that. I mean, that was, for us, was the tipping point. We get up, we go to work. We come home, we bring home the bacon or whatever it is you eat, right? We bring home the tofu. We help do this. And yet our rest was stolen. And so for us to have to say, okay, God, help us, bring somebody in to talk to us. And that's what we did. We said, you know what? Let's just get somebody to talk to us about why we feel the way we feel. And it wasn't a therapy session. It was just our opportunity for us to name what was ailing us, right? To name our trauma, to name our pain, and then move from there. And that was just, and it almost happened by accident. It almost happened by accident, except we were there like, I said, and it all started because somebody said they couldn't sleep. One of my colleagues said, I'm not getting any rest. I said, oh my God, neither am I. And I don't know if it's because I'm on calls late at night, but it was bigger than that. We had taken what the pandemic, the fear, the social isolation, the infiltration of racism, we had taken all of that, and continued to move, but we hadn't stopped to say, how do I make sure that I'm not giving from an empty cup?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This has been good to hear about the stories of resiliency. I'm just going to share with you kind of my parting words, and then I want to hear from everyone what your message is to the audience and really to each other here today as we go into 2021. So Kellen, I hear you. Aaron, I hear you. My theme for this year has been functioning but not okay. And I've been more transparent and more open about that. This has been a very difficult year for me and my family. Functioning but not okay. We're coming up on the birthday of my 7-year-old nephew who died in February. His birthday will be on Monday. And so we're already getting geared up for it. Difficult. We've suffered major losses. My grandmother died around this time last year in December, then my 7-year-old nephew in February. And so it's been difficult. And I will never forget too, even as I was preparing for the change in schedule that I had in my own job, where we had to cut my hours, cut salary, everything was cut. People will say, well, you're a doctor, so they don't. Man, I tell people, get out my business. You have no clue what bills I have that money is able for. Thank you. So, and people need to know doctors can be some of the worst financial folks and spenders of money. Anyway, I'm not gonna tell us too much. But yeah, so it was hard functioning, but not okay. But what I saw myself do was still do what you were talking about, Kellen. I had to go find someone for myself. I had to find someone who I could trust, who I could talk to, and to be able to share, how I was doing. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of that time, God put me into isolation so I can learn about me. And there's a quote, and this is going to be what my message is for people, because really I could stay there, and I'm not trying to bring down the show, but I'm just want to again show people that even as a physician, even as a person who is helping to host this show, even as a person who is trying to help people in this time of being grateful, that we all can experience these life's challenges. So here's my quote, and I posted it maybe about a couple months ago. Not my own direct quote, but it's one that I'm living by. It states, "Your time is limited." We know that. Your time is limited. So don't waste it living someone else's life. That's my quote to you all for 2021. Your time is limited. We know it. We know it. So don't waste your time living someone else's life. Man.
Yeah.
All right. I could really develop that and go further.
Don't worry about
But watch your voice, Doc.
But let me tell. Oh Lord Jesus! All right.
You wait on it.
See, that's all these preachers. So that's what happens when you bring on preachers. But don't waste it living someone else's life. There's so many people. I'll say this, and I'm done. Who are living other people's lives, dreams. I heard someone say it earlier. This is not the time to sit down and be trying to figure. Well, let me say it like this. Don't hesitate. This is the time to get up and to do. I'll say it just like that. Come on, Kellen. Come on behind me.
Yeah. So, parting words, man. That was powerful. That was powerful, man. I just want to say ditto.
Oh man,
that's real, man. And what Pastor Ivan said earlier too, man, about the whole seeing what other people are doing, the comparison and all that, man. That's crucial in this season too, especially with being in a screen all the time. You see what everybody else is doing, and so, man, I second that notion. Man, go hard, being you.
Yes.
Embrace fully who you are, and be willing to discover new sides and new parts of you that others may have tried to peg you into or say that's not really you. Hey, be open to evolving, changing, and man, just being the best that you can be for the glory of God.
Absolutely. Come on, Pastor D. Ivan.
I go back to my opening statement, Aaron. Be content. Find your place of contentment during this season. Do not allow yourself to become so overwhelmed and so anxious, even by all the systems that, of course, we are engaged with of this world, if you will, but don't allow it to stress you out. Politics and all those types of things, find yourself a place where, this is my place of contentment, whether it be Netflix, whether it be just in the silence of your home with a candle lit and just some good music or something to that effect. Find your place of contentment, but most of all, understand that our greatest contentment comes from our faith in God. Our faith in God is what gives us that peace that surpasses all understanding. Our faith in God gives us that joy unspeakable and full of glory. And our faith in God is what provides us that anchor so that we can hope in him, maintain our expectation and our anticipation that he's going to bring us through. And as Pastor Aaron said in the beginning, that we're going to come out of this pandemic differently than the way we went in. And I would add to it and say that we are not going to come out empty-handed. I told the congregation on Sunday that what you do now determines what's next. What you sow in this season determines what you're going to reap in the next season. So be content and sow wisely.
ain't talking about he ain't had nothing to say. I ain't thinking about him. I know. I would just be sitting there.
Ivan, don't forget that note.
Oh man, that's awesome. Go ahead, Aaron.
Man, I tell my team when I meet with the teams at our church, right now, everything is an option. Nothing is black and white. If you want to try something, let's try it. I don't know if that's going to work. Let's try it. Everything is an option. We hosted service from the lobby one Sunday. We hosted service from the back of the sanctuary. We hosted service in Bishop's office. Everything is an option. Try it. Be different. Who knows? It might work. It might not. Don't lose your ability to imagine, as SpongeBob says. Use your imagination. Use it. It's good.
SpongeBob, come on here.
Humor is good.
Absolutely.
Good. Laughter is good. Use these moments. You're so, as Pastor Ivan said, these moments matter not just for now, but for tomorrow.
Right.
We've had people praying who've never prayed before. That means their relationship with God is going to be stronger than it was before we came. We can't go back to what they were doing before.
That's right.
We can't. We coming out of this thing with some serious prayer warriors. We're coming out of this thing with people who can carry service, who can minister. We got people in our prayer lines praying in the drive-thru who barely came to service on Sunday. I mean, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
Bishop says it when he preaches. He said, we are not going back.
Yeah.
He says, we will not go back. We will go forward.
Absolutely. All right, Andrea.
So I think mine is, I'll end with what I started, and that is, I think it'll be important to continue to respect the pause. And then lastly, don't be afraid to reimagine. I talk about that all the time. Don't be afraid to reimagine. What?
Yeah.
What could be?
Absolutely.
So,
oh man, this is
mine.
excellent. If you are listening, I know you've been encouraged. I'm seeing some great comments. I'm seeing how some folks are even talking about Ben and Jerry's, our great comrades. My God. Now, Ben and Jerry's, you better watch that because there is such thing as a quarantine 15. I've seen it. I've seen it. It was about patients when they come online. I'm like, man, you look different. After
adds 10 pounds.
Absolutely. But let me tell you, this has been good. This has been good conversation. I feel better. You should feel uplifted. These are some great minds, and we're going to do this again. We need to have this interruption in just all the negativity. Now, I don't like bringing negativity. I just have to bring to you the true facts. I have been now labeled the chief myth buster, so I have no problem with busting up stuff that ain't true. But let me tell you, after a while, you get tired of doing stuff like that, man. Reporting on the coronavirus in the news and all the mental health challenges. We need to hear something that's uplifting, and we want to make sure that we are grateful. So let me tell you this, Hope Health Systems, where I work at, let me share this news publicly. It is in the newspapers now, and we are printing up different articles. Well, instead of say different articles, one article with just different people now distributing it. We are on the move. This is where I work, where I'm chief medical director. I love it. We are in the process of, by 2022, opening up the first in a long time 16 patient inpatient unit within Baltimore County. That is a huge deal. Black-owned company, from the least restrictive resources now to the most restrictive. Now, there's an article. My light on here, you can't see. It's too much light in the background. But I got the article here. I'm going to send it out. Let me tell you, I am so proud to be a part of an organization that is on the move. So many times you talk about churches on the move, and that's great. But I want to know what you're doing in your personal life. Is your personal life on the move? And you should not just be assuming someone else's responsibilities if you know that those are not the things that you were called to do. All right. I'll leave that alone right there. But I am so proud that we have our own, working on our own hospital, and me right there to serve as the chief medical director.
It's awesome.
Man, let me tell you, I'm honored.
Phenomenal.
I'm honored. And so, not looking for the applause. It's just we try to fight for the cause, let me tell you, because there's so many children out there who are hurting and who need these resources. So I wanted to share that little bit of news with you all. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, cook, eat, but still be safe, all right? There shouldn't be any 10, 15, 20, 25. I know all y'all got these big families out there. Come on, y'all. Let's split it up, okay? Let's not do it this year. I'm not going back home. I'm not going to be out west with my family. I'm going to stick it out east here. Do Thanksgiving here at the Shepherd, the Shepherd pasture, as I call it.
Chateau.
Oh, wow. The pasture. Okay.
The Shepherd's Chateau.
Chateau.
Oh man, I was just but yeah, just go do it out here, do it up right, let me tell you. But it's good, that we're celebrating on Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family, love on them, let them know that you're proud of them, and still please be safe. I want our guests to hang on after we are about to close out, and we'll just wrap this up right here. Hope Health Systems, located in Baltimore, Maryland, 410-265-8737 will do you some good if you come on over, if you're in need of mental health services. And I want to highlight real quickly, Black Mental Health Alliance, non-for-profit organization. Andrea, where can they reach information for Black Mental Health Alliance or donate if they want to do that? You're muted.
Sorry, but they can do it via our website, blackmentalhealth.org, GoFundMe, and also through PayPal. So thank you so much for what you give.
All right, great. Black Mental Health Alliance, wonderful organization. Kellen, where can people get your material, your literary work? This is a writer, you all, a good writer.
Yeah, go to kellenbrooks.com. My name, KELLEN Brooks.com. You can grab both of the books, When Shall We Eat Cake, and my first work, Unsuccessfully Single, Surefire Ways to Sabotage Your Single Life, a satire on jacking up your single life.
Nice.
Audra, we need to get him for Black Mental Health Alliance.
I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I got my TED Talk on the topic as well.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, Johnson, where can we reach you? Working with if people want to tune in to different things that you got going on?
You just follow me at C. Ivan Johnson on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
All right, wonderful. And Aaron, closing us out. Where can we follow you at?
Glad Tidings International Facebook page. You'll find our Zoom info on there. We're on every single day. You can find me on Facebook, Aaron T. Macklin, but Glad Tidings are on Zoom every day, every single day. The Zoom ID is 510-197-8000.
You remembered your Zoom number.
Brother, I told you, you off the line.
That's special.
Oh my goodness.
That's deep. I forgot to acknowledge those who go back and replay. Let me tell you all, we have people who go back and replay this. Typically is 2-3 times more the people who actually have seen it right now who go back and replay these episodes. So that's why I wanted to take the time so people can reach out to you. So those people may reach out to you. And again, I want to thank everybody who goes back to watch. Again, enjoy. I'll be back on Friday with the regular time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be back with my friends, Dr. Griffin, Dr. Draza, as we do our Let's Chop It Up series, the end of the month recap. So check us out Friday, Eastern Standard Time, 6 o'clock. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day. Hold on, those of you all who are with me.